Alrighty, everyone. Today we have the godfather of law firm marketing, Andy Stickel. Andy, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I just realized that I don't have any video on, and I'm like the video guy. So I don't even have, I don't have my video set up. So I'm ill prepared, I guess.
No worries, no
Get
worries.
my audio.
I'll do active listening as you're talking so that they'll kind of like get some video response as you're talking. Today we're going to be talking about how to become omnipresent, and Andy has done such a spectacular job helping attorneys understand the strategies and tactics to really master cutting edge legal marketing tactics using social and what I call arbitrage opportunities online, which are so hard to find in today's landscape that's so competitive. And what I noticed is Andy is making a lot of assumptions when he gives out all these tactics and strategies, assuming that people have the motivation that Andy has to go out and create all of this amazing content. So what I wanted to dive into is, Andy, what motivates you to become omnipresent in the legal marketing niche? Like, was there a light switch event where you were like, I need to dominate one niche and primarily on one platform, YouTube as your dominant platform?
Well, no, not really. So the way that I got into kind of this whole omnipresent strategy is first I had done marketing for lawyers for, I don't know, 6 years. I started my agency in 2012, and I really didn't start this until the end of 2017. So what is that, 6 years? 5 years. And basically, I just kind of noticed that the way that we got clients was just like how everyone else gets clients, where basically they send out emails and, oh, there's something wrong with your website. I'd love to take a look at your H1 header for it, all that stupid stuff. And I just didn't want to do that anymore, because what I was realizing is that it was really difficult to get those types of clients. But what was really easy was to get clients that were referral based, because they had already, they trusted us pretty much, So I was thinking, okay, well, how do we, first of all, increase our referrals? So that was one thing we worked on, but we're not a huge agency. So the other thing I was thinking is, how do we make people warm to me before I actually, so that it's not a cold lead. So I basically just figured, okay, well, what I can do is I can just help people solve problems with the most common questions that I get over and over and over again. I kind of went on a little bit of an experiment. I basically told myself I was going to try it for 6 months, and I wasn't going to look at my analytics. I wasn't going to look at anything for about 6 months. So I started doing it. About 4 months in, I still didn't have, I probably had, I don't know, 40, 50 videos when I was 4 months in. I had a Facebook group that had maybe 20 people in it. And I just, I no one was watching my videos. So I had to basically just have the faith that it was going to work and stick with it. And eventually it did, but it kind of all happened by accident. Like, I didn't go out and say, oh, I'm going to go be omnipresent. I'm going to start doing all this stuff and start having all this stuff everywhere. Basically what ended up happening is I created some videos and I put them on Facebook. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I should probably upload these to YouTube also. And then I was like, well, I could probably, add these to my Facebook page also. And, oh, wait, I should probably, send out an email and link to that, so it kind of happened that way. It wasn't really intentional. The only thing intentional was creating content. And then the fact that I'm kind of everywhere else is more just like me thinking, hey, why am I not on LinkedIn? I should probably do that. And then, just kind of putting the pieces together to make that happen. So it's not necessarily that I did it intentionally. It just kind of happened that way.
So the interesting thing here is it seems like you stumbled into the next opportunity and then the next one and then the next one. And over time, it built up a huge snowball. But what you hear from a lot of professional athletes is like, you can win one championship, but real champions are made by doing it again and again and again, replicating success. So obviously you were prepared for the success that you're now reaping from all of the investment you did in your content marketing. So it definitely seems to me like, okay, yes, you did some consistent behaviors in the beginning to get the snowball moving, but what made you capitalize on that? Like, how did you capture that opportunity rather than just being like a one-hit wonder with your content marketing?
You just have to have discipline. That's really what it comes down to, is that for me, if you look at my early videos are horrible. There's no, I mean, they're just like, they're monotone, they're boring, they're slow. And that's how my videos were for a while, but it was basically just continuing to do it over and over and over and over and over again. So what ended up happening is it used to take me, I remember one day very specifically, I recorded a tutorial and I think it took me 2 days to do this tutorial in terms of, and it was just something like, it wasn't anything crazy. It was just like how to do like keyword research for a law firm website or something. And it took me 2 days to actually do this entire thing. And I tried to get it perfect and I tried to do all that type of stuff. And then I just kind of at some point just started like kind of realizing that, okay, first of all, if I'm going to do this, I have to figure out a way. I have to first accept that done is better than perfect. So it's not going to be perfect. And by doing that, by accepting that I just need to get it done, that allows you to be disciplined enough to do it every day. And then that's really what it comes down to. I think what makes me different than most people is that I just have discipline that people don't have. Like I'm up at 5 a.m. every single day working. Most people don't have the discipline to get up at 5 a.m. You know, like, and I just have the discipline to do it to the point where I've done it so much that it only takes me 5 minutes to do a video. So I've got all this content, I've got all this stuff out there and people start seeing me everywhere. But what that is that's the culmination of building something for 2 or 3 years. You know, it didn't happen overnight. This happened because I just stayed disciplined and I worked, 5-10 minutes a day, every day for 2 years. And now I've got this big thing that just runs on autopilot and just generates leads like crazy.
Man, that's awesome. And Jay Ruane, who owns SpermFlex, he famously says toilet time marketing is the best way to get started. If you invested every minute that you're on the toilet and just use that as a consistent behavior every day to put something out, that's one way he's trained people to become consistent with the discipline you're talking about. So
I don't even do videos on the toilet. That'd be kind of funny though.
Yeah, not recommended. In terms of measuring success, do you have a measurement for what makes your, I guess we'll say it, your zoomed out marketing strategy successful?
I mean, if I'm making money, that's, if you're talking about my strategy, you know, for me, it's, am I making money? You know, it's two sides. Okay. That's not entirely true. I'm making money. And then also I'm getting good testimonials from clients, because I'm not really, I mean, like, yes, everyone wants to make money, but I want to have products that actually make a difference for people. And I want to have products that actually, change people's lives. And what's cool about that is that, if I help a lawyer grow his law firm, and then, he's got a staff and he's got to hire more people. And then on top of that, the law firm helps all these people. So it's kind of a trickle down effect where it's not just all about money. I actually do care about having a good product and making sure that people are actually getting results from my products, or from my products and my services, which is cool. We had a guy last week who got, he did a video. He's an immigration attorney. He's one of our social media clients, and one of his videos ended up going viral, and I think he got 200 leads in a single day. And he's been getting like hundreds of leads every single day since then. So it's really cool when stuff like that happens, because you're just, that's like a life-changing amount of leads, so, and the strategy that we have is going to keep doing that for him. So it's just really cool when you can actually get results for people that make a difference. And then, so that's part of what my success is. If what I'm doing and I'm teaching people and they're having success, then I'm being successful. And then, there's that Zig Ziglar quote, which I think got attributed to Tony Robbins, which is, if you help enough people get everything that they want, you'll get everything you want. So that's really kind of the message behind my entire marketing. Really, that's kind of like, if you were to sum up my mission statement, it's basically just help other people get what they want. And then, by default, or by whatever it is, by proxy, I don't know what the word is there, but whatever it is, it'll end up, I'll end up getting paid in the end, and it works well. So the more successful people are, the more successful I am. And that's how I judge everything is basically what kind of feedback I'm getting.
Yeah. So, and one way I've kind of tried to hardwire that in my own brain is every morning, instead of writing down my financial goal alone, which I do Think and Grow Rich, I read my major definite purpose statement out loud every morning and write my goals and gratitudes. I started reframing my goals to, I earn 10% of the value that I produce in the marketplace, which always reminds me that I got to give way more than what comes back to me, especially in this phase of my business. I'm not in the rake it in and be a billionaire stage just yet.
That's how you differentiate yourself too. There's nobody, when everybody is so me-centric, that when you start giving away, like, I give away everything. I give away all my secrets. And the thought process is that you give enough away, and there's going to be people that will go out and they'll take the information, they'll do it themselves. And those people are never going to be customers anyway. But there's going to be people that are going to see it. They're going to learn a lot, and they're going to say, okay, well, I trust you, so I want you to do this for me.
Yep.
And that's, that's typically how it works.
So this leads perfectly into my next question, which was really what inspired you to create courses that change people's lives? And what I was going to ask was there a specific course or teacher or maybe mentor that made you want to replicate the way they changed your life, and you wanted to then do that to other people?
So the biggest one is Russell Brunson. That's, I read .com Secrets, and then I read Expert Secrets, and then so what's interesting is that I went from, I saw his free book. I bought his free book. And then 2 months later, I had written him a check for $15,000. And that was so I could go work with him in Boise, Idaho. And the thing that I was the most interested in is how did he take me from a free book to writing a check for 15 grand in like 2 months? You know what I mean? Because that's the type of stuff that I was, so that really opened up my eyes to kind of how marketing really works. Like I'd been in marketing for 5 years before then. And before that, I owned a concert promotions business. So I kind of got like the gimmicky marketing, but I never actually understood marketing as a psychology and marketing as like the principles of marketing, about how things work and how, like, what motivates people to buy and all that type of stuff. So Russell was huge. I also met Steve Larson out there, who Steve Larson has been a big influence on me. I listened to his podcast, and he's actually the one that my first 2 Comma Club funnel for ClickFunnels, which 2 Comma Club is when you have a funnel that makes $1 million. The first funnel that I ever created, I got from him, or I basically got the idea from him, which is pretty cool. And then Dan Henry has been a huge impact on me also. I'm in his mastermind group, and Dan's one of those guys that a lot of people don't really like him, but he's probably one of the smartest marketing people out there right now. And, he's been huge. And then other guys like, I just read Dan Kennedy, one of Dan Kennedy's books. Frank Kern is awesome. I follow a lot of Frank Kern stuff. So there's just so many guys out there that are really, really good at marketing. And the thing that all these guys have in common is they provide a ridiculous amount of value on the front end. And yep. I mean, like Russell, like everything I paid in that $15,000 course, there's nothing in there that was not in .com Secrets or that you can find on one of his thousands of videos on Facebook. So it's kind of the theme between all these guys. Nobody has gotten, none of these guys that I really follow and respect and that I are seeing be successful has been successful by keeping all their cards on their, close to the chest. They show everything. And then, somebody told me, I think it might've been Dan, who said, people will always pay you to ask more questions or get it done faster. And, depending on what you put out there. So, and that's something I've really tested. And it's true. I mean, I put my entire social media strategy, I put my entire SEO strategy, I put everything out there, and it hasn't hurt at all. I think a lot of people are afraid of giving it all away, and they shouldn't be.
So the interesting thing is, people don't see. This is why I wanted to ask these questions. People don't see the mad scientist behind the advice that you're giving. As the advice that you're giving people is a culmination of, lessons that you've learned from people who also have 10, 15, 20 years of experience. So when you're giving a simple prescription to a lawyer on how to manage a multifaceted Facebook organic strategy or whatever, what some of them probably don't realize is that could be literally 100 years of combined experience behind that little prescription that you're giving. And I know all of these people you're talking about, and it's so cool to me that you are like compartmentalizing what you're learning from all these different mentors. And this is something I see when I interview anyone successful is you're grabbing ideas like a buffet from other people. And ultimately all of your best strategies end up being really not from you. They end up being a synergistic form of creativity versus an organic form of creativity where you're sitting alone in a room and going, what's my next idea? What's my next idea? Pop! And then a new idea comes, right? It's more like, no, okay, this worked here. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's put that together. Let's try this out. Oh, let's test this.
Yeah, well, it's funny because the term funnel hacking became very popular, which most people assume is just stealing, but it's really not. Like I mean, there's a lot of people that are just stealing, but what I do, and what a lot of people, what the true purpose of funnel hacking is, you look and you say, okay, I do marketing for lawyers. I'm not going to look at another lawyer marketing company and just basically steal all their stuff, which happens to me constantly. There's people all the time that are just basically running ads with my exact scripts, my exact imagery, everything in there. That's not what it is. What you do is you look at, so perfect example, I'll look at what, ClickFunnels does, or what Dan Henry does to sell some of his stuff, like his book, for example. And Dan is selling a book teaching people how to sell courses online. So what I can do is I can look at elements of what he's doing, and I can figure out, okay, how can that apply to what I'm trying to do? How can I look at what he's done and had success with, and then implement that into my business, where I take those pieces and I put them in place so that I can sell books to lawyers. But I'm not stealing his copy. I'm not stealing his stuff. I'm basically being inspired by it, And it's funny, you said things going back 100 years. It's actually further than that. I read recently this book called Customers Born Every Minute by Joey Vitale, I think. And it's about P.T. Barnum. So P.T. Barnum was he was born in like the 1800s, early 1800s, and I think he ran his big museum, which is how he got so rich. He ran that in like the 1840s and 1850s. And the marketing strategies that he used back then are the exact same ones that we're using today. The only difference is that he was using the newspaper, and we're using Facebook. Like that's the only difference. It's the concepts are the same: urgency, scarcity, all that type of stuff. Providing more value, even providing more value than you receive. All that stuff is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. It's just it's like the strategy is the same. The tactic is what's different. The tactic is Facebook now instead of the newspaper.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I love how information seeking you are, because I feel like in so many of your videos, like I wish more people knew how much work you put in to form your concepts, right? Because in the videos and on my videos as well, I can tend to be very prescriptive, but I fail sometimes to explain all of the failures it took to come up with that prescription. And I feel like if people understood more of that, it may motivate them to take action on the prescription versus just put it in a filing cabinet of 15 other prescriptions that may not be infused with as much failure and strategy. Another question, and you hit on this very quickly, and then we talked about something else, was your daily habits. You mentioned that you wake up at 5 a.m. What I wanted to hear, and what I'm trying to gauge here, Andy, is really just as someone who has put a stake in the ground for your business and claimed that I am going to be the lead marketer for my business, which that declaration right there is probably only something that maybe 1% of business owners ever make, is owning that they are a marketer. Now that you've made that, I don't want to call it a shift because it seems like it came naturally to you, but now that you know that you are the marketer for your business, how do you prioritize your days being a marketer for your business and doing marketing for other people's businesses?
Well, no, it was definitely a shift, because when we started this company, Social Firestarter, back in 2012, I wanted to do the work, and then because I've got a partner and she is the salesperson, and I just wanted to be the marketing guy that just did the work. So I did not want to be out in front. I never ever imagined that I would ever be out in front on camera. But one day I realized that if I'm going to do something different, I got to do something different. So that's kind of what prompted me to start creating content and doing all that type of stuff. So in terms of what I do on a daily basis, the first thing is I have a really good team. That's the hardest. I mean, that's the secret to everything, is that I've got a team where my philosophy is everything that requires thinking I handle, and everything else gets done by somebody else. So like, I don't even check my own email. Like my assistant checks. Yeah. So I always say I get paid to think, everyone else gets paid to do. Right.
Wow.
Because anything that's replicatable can be outsourced. So, I've got a really good project manager who manages all of our client work in terms of so if we're talking about strategy, I'll be involved with the strategy. But if we're talking about building a website, I don't need to be involved with that, because I've already laid out the strategy and we've already got the SOPs in terms of hey, here's how the website, here's the elements that need to be in a website. Here's how we do SEO. Here's how it needs to be coded. So I don't need to be involved in that part. As long as I have somebody that I can trust that knows the process, then I can move on to other stuff. So that's the biggest thing for me is I can get as much as I can get off my plate. I get off my plate. So if you email me, there's a 99% chance it's not me that's going to read the email. My assistant handles my Facebook messages. She handles all of that stuff for me so that I don't have to deal with a lot of that stuff. All of our mailings, for example, like all this stuff that takes 2 or 3 minutes at a day but just ends up like sucking out your entire day. I get off my plate. So I get up at 5 a.m. and I make sure 5 to 7 a.m. is probably my most productive time of the entire day because it's the only time when my phone's not ringing and people aren't messaging me and all that type of stuff. So whatever my most important project is, that's what I do at 5 a.m. And then at 7 a.m., I go wake my kids up. I get them ready for school. I do all that type of stuff. Then I'll typically go exercise. And then from there, it's kind of not as organized. It's either dealing with fires or dealing with stuff like that. But I do a lot of, so the way I actually stay organized is a bit probably too complicated to actually explain on this. I use a system called the Secret Weapon, which is, have you ever heard of the book Getting Things Done?
Yes.
So basically what they did is they took the concept from that book, and I've actually never even read the book, but they took the concept from that book and they developed it into a way to organize Evernote. And what I used to do is I used to use my inbox as my to-do list, my email inbox, right? Which I'm sure a lot of people do. And you never get anything done. So basically what if you look at my inbox, like I don't have any emails in there. I always get everything out of my inbox. Everything that needs to get done gets sent over to Evernote, which I use as my to-do list. And then I've got a bunch of automation from if this, then that basically gives me my daily stuff that I need to do every single day. And depending on if it's Wednesday or if it's Tuesday, I have different things that auto-populate. And if I tell too much more, it's going to get way confusing and nobody's going to know what the hell I'm talking about. I probably already lost a bunch of people with that. But basically, that's pretty much what I do is I've automated my weeks. And then the other thing that I do is every single morning, I literally schedule everything that I'm doing. So, like today I was working on my email sequence. We completely redid our follow-up sequence. So for 3 hours I had on my calendar, follow-up email sequence. And then, like literally everything to do. Somebody told me if it's important enough to do, it's important enough to schedule. So every single thing, like after this, I've got to review the script for our salesperson. And then I've got my coaching call. Then I've got to review my salesperson's script, which is on my calendar for 3:30. You know what I mean? So that's probably been the biggest game changer is scheduling my day out because it just makes it keeps you on track. And you know that, okay, I'm going to review this script and I've got 20 minutes to do it because at 3:40, I've got to start something else. And if I don't get this done by then it's going to screw my entire day up, So it really keeps you on track.
I'm gonna show you something real quick. I have a priority sheet. I think this will be of value to people. I'm going to start giving it out. So this is how I plan my days in the morning is I plan my top 3 projects that are like ongoing, who I'm waiting on, who I need to reach out to, and then the things I must complete today, no matter what. I'm a little OCD.
Is that a Brandon Burchard thing?
Yep. Yeah. And we put our logo on top of it.
Yeah. Okay. I saw, so I'm huge into productivity, like trying to figure out how I can, so I was watching some of his videos, because he's got that planner. Yeah, I'm always trying to figure out how I can be more productive. And, it's tough. I mean, when I find something, it makes a huge difference, but I don't find that many things that often. But, I've been meaning to do an entire walkthrough on productivity in terms of how I get this stuff. Cause most people don't realize this. I do daily content. I have 2 businesses, both of which make 7 figures a year. I've got a family and I don't work Fridays. So I only work 4 days a week. You know what I mean? So the only way to do all this is to stay as organized and be as productive with my time as possible, So yeah, the productivity hacks are huge for me.
I'll send you some of my other hacks. I'm crazy with it though. So
yeah, let me know. Okay. I gotta do a video showing my entire behind the scenes of how I actually do all my stuff because it's pretty sophisticated. Well, it's actually not that complicated, but it's a game changer when you do it right.
That's the hard thing for me. So, we're talking about how you batch your time, and I understand your priorities. Do you always stick to what's in the calendar, especially when it's an alone time task?
I try to. I mean, the problem I have is that my biggest problem is that I'm a little too ambitious of how quickly I think I can get things done. Because I know how quickly I want to get something done, and then I know, but that's not how, I usually I'll plan for 30 minutes for something that takes me an hour, and I screw that up all the time. And I going into it, I kind of know that that's a problem, and I really should have learned by now. But that's my biggest problem is underestimating how much time stuff takes, and sometimes it just drives me crazy. And then sometimes there's things that I don't have any control over. That like yesterday, I was working an Active Campaign, and Active Campaign, or it was 2 days ago, Active Campaign was having server issues. So the entire website just would not work. And like, it was just dragging. Like Facebook does that all the time with Facebook ads. It's just so frustrating when I see I've got something coming up in 15 minutes and I can't get done the thing I'm working because of the fact that the website's going so slow. Like, that stuff happens to me all the time too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I try to stick to it, because if you don't stick to it, then it's the only way to hold yourself accountable. Because otherwise, I'll take 3 hours to work on something that should take me an hour, because I have such ADD, and I have such like I just don't like, okay. So the perfect example, I work from home, and my wife will sometimes pop her head in my office, and she'll be like, "Hey, I got a quick question for you," and she'll ask me a 2-second question. And the problem is that knocks me out of the zone for like 5 minutes. So like stuff like that, like, and of course I can't tell my wife you're not allowed to come to my office, you know what I mean? But like, I'm the type where I get so distracted so easily, and it's so hard for me to get back in, that I've got to have those, like, that structure and that focus. Otherwise I won't get finished what I need to get finished.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if you ever took the Colby personality test.
No, I haven't.
Okay, yeah, you should definitely take that. I found that I'm a 9 out of 10 quick start, and quick starts are great at, starting businesses and starting new
Mhm.
projects. But one of the biggest weaknesses of a quick start is the underestimation of effort and time required to get projects done, which actually ties into another question that I had, because you seem like a idea person, which I too suffer from idea-itis.
Yeah.
My question is, how do you execute on the ideas? Do you have a habit as to when the idea comes up for a new marketing funnel, lead magnet, etc., a
Mhm.
step-by-step process where you break that down? I use impact filters. I'm in a course, I guess you'd call called Strategic Coach. And we use
Mhm.
impact filters to break down the KPIs of what will make the project successful, deadline, etc. Do you
Yeah.
have a habit to make sure things get done?
Yeah, I don't do them. That's my biggest thing. So there's two types of people in as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this. There's starters and there's finishers. I'm an excellent starter. I'm a horrible finisher. So a lot of times, like, clients will be like, "Well, I thought, they'll hire us," and they'll be like, "So are you actually going to be doing the work on my website?" I'm like, first of all, you don't want me doing the work on your website, because I'm horrible at actually doing the work. What I'm good at is coming up with the big picture and then giving it to a finisher and saying, okay, go implement. Here's how it needs to be done. Go implement it.
Mm,
Because I'm not good at. I mean, that's the thing. And I talked to Russell about that at when I was in Idaho for a little while back, and he was saying the same thing. He's a great starter, but he is not a finisher. And I think that there's a lot of people that are like that. So the secret is you have to have, if you're an entrepreneur, you either got to have a partner that's a finisher, or you've got to have a good team below you that can basically take all of your ideas and put them into action. So that's what I have. Is I have, I have one person that does nothing but just handles my marketing. So I'll message him, I'll send him a Slack message and be like, "Hey, I want to create this thing, go do it." And then, 2 days later, he sends me a link and says, "Here it is." You know what I mean? So like, that's the way that we do. I mean, there's been days when I'll just be like sitting at my desk, and I'll just go stand up and draw an entire funnel out on a whiteboard, and I'll just pull my phone out and be like, "Hey, here's what we're going to do," and just like walk through every step of it. And then he just goes and builds it. But if I was the one that
mm.
actually had to go build it, I would get distracted in the middle of it, and I'd start building something else.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to send you the impact filter. I have one over there, but I'm not going to get up again. You have to
Mhm.
state the. So my rule, since I have a million ideas a minute, is I have to wait at least 24 hours to present it to anyone on my team. Cause most
Mhm.
times I'll get hype on an idea. And then when I sleep on it, I'll realize it was, not
That's
as
actually a good
impactful.
idea. I should
So
do that.
I'm
That's a good
actually,
idea.
it's really funny. I almost feel like I'm like a straight jacket patient in my company. And
Mhm.
everyone knows that Bill has ideas and he's in his little straight jacket for 24 hours with that idea he had at the meeting. And
Mhm.
tomorrow we'll let him out of the straight jacket. So what I do when I'm in the straight jacket, quote unquote, is I write down the name of the project, what must be completed for it to be successful, what
Mhm.
impact it'll make, and then what are the key measurables, the KPIs that will show that this was successful. And that allows me to filter my ideas. So next to my desk, if I were to show you, I have a
Yeah.
stack of impact filters, and I try and prioritize them every week so that the ideas that aren't as important sit on the bottom, and then
Uh-huh.
the ones on the very top I'll give to someone on my team. So I'll send you that
What
after
is that?
this.
What is that called? Is impact filter?
It's called an impact filter. Yeah.
What's the course that you said you took a course that's teaching you that?
Yeah, it's strategic coach. So yeah, we do quarterly workshops with, other entrepreneurs. And yeah, we basically, it's like a support group kind of for entrepreneurs.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
send you it afterwards.
that's really interesting. Yeah, no, I stuff like that is definitely of interest to me, and that's probably my next thing I need to get into is really kind of putting some of it, because like that's actually like really good. Like I work really good when I work really well when I have set rules. So
Yep.
if I'm not allowed to do anything for 24 hours, that actually would help me a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. So what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned, whether it be in marketing or in business? Like what were some of the biggest epiphanies you've had?
I haven't had any epiphanies. The lesson that I learned is that you just have to be patient. That's
Mm,
and that's the hardest thing for me. And I think it's the hardest thing for a lot of people, because a lot of people they'll create a video and they'll be like, I recorded a video and I didn't get any clients from it. Like, no shit, like it takes a long time. It took me 4 months. I recorded videos for 4 months and nobody watched them. And it was my mom and my business partner that watched them, so patience is something that you have to really, focus on. Honestly, the biggest marketing epiphany for me a couple years ago, that most lawyers are guilty of this, is when I really kind of came to the understanding that nobody cares about me. And what I mean by that is, and not that I thought that people cared about me, but what I mean by that is that when you present anything in terms of marketing, the only thing that people care about is, what is this going to do for me, or why should I listen to this, because how is this going to help me, right? So if I go out there and lead with, oh, I'm a lawyer marketing expert and I've done this and I've done this and I've done this and I've done everybody, they're going to turn it off because they don't care about me. Just like lawyers, when they're like, oh, I've got $10 million in verdicts and settlements and we've won this many trials, like nobody cares. What they care about is the solution to their problem. So when I made that shift, and it's a really simple shift when you really think about it, it's like, stop talking about you, start talking about them. But it's such a major change in just the way that I conducted all of my marketing and all of my content and everything that I do, that's probably single-handedly been the biggest, like that one small thing is probably the biggest aha that I really had in my entire career, is making that shift. And it definitely the most impactful.
hmm. Yeah, it's definitely humbling, right? Because in the beginning, like I remember when I started my business, I would tell people I had independent contractors, all over, which is a great model for systemizable pieces of marketing. And I would definitely make it seem as though, we had like a corporate headquarters, and because I was insecure because I felt like I needed to prove what I knew, and then what I had, what resources I had.
Yeah.
And the shift for me was, whenever I get on the phone with a lawyer, most times I don't even talk about what we do. I talk about their practice area and the strategy for their practice area, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and then once we're talking about that, we're in a different level of relatability versus me talking about click-through rates, conversion rates, and numbers, that other companies claim before that rip them off. So, I just like talking all about them and their day to day. So that's an awesome insight.
Well, what's interesting is And I do this on sales calls also. There's a guy named Ryan Stewman who I saw him speak, and he said this quote that stuck with me, which was, and he's a sales trainer, and he said, he said, he who speaks the most makes the least. So basically, like what we do with our salespeople, I train them, just ask questions. Don't talk about what we do. Don't talk. You just ask questions and just talk about, or get the client or the lead to talk about what they want, what the problems are, and let them talk for most of the conversation and just ask questions. And doing that, it's so much easier. Like I used to hate phone sales, and now I love it because it's not even selling. I'm just asking questions, and then it makes, because people only tell their problems to people that they trust. So it just automatically builds a rapport. And it's funny too, because this is going back to that psychology. Everybody's favorite subject is themselves. So if you're asking somebody question after question after question after question after question all about themselves, and they're just talking about themselves and talking about themselves and talking about themselves, they're going to feel great. And they're automatically going to like you because you were just talking about their favorite subject for 2 hours, for however long you were talking to them. So
Yep.
that's something. And I tell lawyers that also when I do sales training. It's like, just ask questions and get them talking about themselves.
Yeah, and even just pre-stating objections. So like if I start a call with like a criminal defense lawyer, I'll immediately start and go, hey, I just like diving right in. We've been there, done that with criminal defense campaigns. The first thing I like to ask is whether you like to focus more on misdemeanors, DUIs, felony cases, or if you take federal cases. So let me know a little bit more about your practice. So when you talk, when you ask an intelligent, informed question like that, I've noticed that rapport is built much faster. I tried the interview approach, like, tell me about your firm. Okay, that's great. What are your goals? Okay, how about next year? And I've noticed that if there's not that little bit of intelligence at the beginning of your questions, but I don't want to go down the weeds of sales strategy. I could go all day on that. What I did want to ask,
I'll give you a
yeah,
quick
go ahead.
tip real fast. The easiest thing you can do to build rapport is immediately give somebody a compliment right at the beginning of the call.
Take a note on that.
just whatever it is, just find some way to compliment them.
I really like your beard on the photo
There
you are on this Zoom interview. So what I want to hear, since you are very much a future thinker, where do you see law firm marketing going in 2025, 2030, maybe 2050? Have you thought about this? Is it going to be just like cyborg receptionists, holograms in the air? What do you think?
I have no idea. I mean, so if you think about it this way, when was the iPhone introduced? 2007, I think.
Yeah, about.
So what is that? Like 13 years ago now?
Yep.
And think about how much our life has changed since the iPhone, really since the App Store came out on the iPhone. So like I'm not even going to pretend to know what's going to happen in 10 years because technology is moving so fast that it's just ridiculous. I think that the legal profession is going to change in terms of car accidents are going to become fewer and fewer. DUIs are going to become fewer and fewer, especially once you start introducing self-driving cars and things like that. What's really interesting is that social media and content is something that I'm seeing a lot of lawyers starting to do it, but the problem is that it requires some work, and I think that that's a trend that a lot of people, I don't think there's anyone out there that would argue that creating content is not a good marketing strategy. I think where they're going to start arguing is they've got the belief that they don't have time to do it. Or they're going to do it and they're going to do it 3 times. And then they're going to say, well, I created 3 videos and it didn't work. And they're going to give up. So I think that there's a huge opportunity for anyone out there that's willing to stick with it. And because there's really no competition once you get, once you get past that tipping point, there's no competition and it's really hard for people to catch you. So I mean, for me, I've got 600 videos right now. I've got, a lot of stuff out there and I'm not slowing down. Like so if somebody was coming along and started kind of like trying to like take on what I'm doing, they'd have to really put in a lot of work because of the fact that I've been doing this nonstop for 2 years and I'm just cranking out content and cranking out content. And I probably got another 50 videos that aren't even released. So once you get to that tipping point, then it becomes really, really easy. And I think there's a lot of people that will never get to that tipping point because they'll quit too soon. There's this thing called the gap of disappointment that I think, have you ever heard of that?
Yep.
Yeah. So Rand Fishkin, I think, is the one that came up with it from Moz. And it basically says that if you're going to create 1 or 2 videos and it's going to be really easy and you're probably going to get, good feedback on it. You might not get clients, but you'll get like, a bunch of likes and a bunch of comments and everything. And then you're going to create a couple more videos and the engagement's going to die and it's going to die. And eventually it's going to be really hard to do a bunch of videos and you're going to get very little, if anything, in return for it. And that's where most people quit. But if you keep going, then eventually it tips and you start getting a ton of return from all this content and it's very easy to create it. So like I've got like 600 videos right now. I get hundreds of leads every single month. And I don't even know where they come from. Like I've got too much stuff out there that I can't keep track of which video generated which lead. But it's like, imagine if you have 600 videos and each one brings in an average of 1 lead per month, or sorry, per year. That's 600 leads just from videos that are out there always working for you that you created one time and you never have to go back to, So it's like, once you get to that point, then it's the best asset you'll ever have. But I think that a lot of people will just not get to that point. So I think that's a big part. I mean, honestly, in terms of marketing, I really don't know where the future is going to go just because of the fact that it's changing so quickly that I really don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, and that seems like when you really analyze kind of your chapter by chapter story, it seems like that's what's made you successful is you're open to new opportunities, new platforms, testing, getting information from an expert here and an expert there and testing something new. And I think that that's the reality is, you can't stay in paralysis by analysis in the fastest changing niche of really mostly all business, digital marketing, especially with, Google. I mean, I believe Facebook's audience network is going to be gone April 1st. There's like some huge changes happening because of privacy restrictions. Google's targeting, now, their household income targeting now is based on browser history rather than tapping into zip code level census data. So there's some huge changes happening before our eyes, but these big platforms are kind of hiding it because they don't want it to be a disruptive experience. So if you have a huge web of content like you do, you get to own your data. And that is like the biggest asset that ensures you against any future audience restrictions on any platform is that pixel that you work so hard to fill with interested, qualified people will get you so far. And I feel like if you just look at that gap of disappointment and the investment time it takes to build up a content portfolio, you're going to miss the little positive externalities like the pixel, the retargeting list that you're building, the email list you're building, etc. And it's incremental. It's not like a perfect light switch, ever. It's never going to be for anyone doing content marketing. It's not one day you sit back and say, oh, I guess I'm done now, or I made it. It's a snowball that just keeps getting bigger. So, kudos to everything that you've done with your content strategy. I want to ask a couple more questions before we sign off. You talked about systems, and I was going to go into the weeds about Facebook ad strategy, but you have plenty of content on that. You talked about systems, and you talked about using Evernote and if-then analyses and not touching your email. So for lawyers or marketers who are listening to this, are you just a systems guy, or was there something that was a light switch for you when it came to like, no, let me create a system on anything repeatable in my business because I am not going to waste time on something I've already went through before?
Well, it was more out of necessity because, like I said, I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. And at 6 o'clock, I've got to be finished working. Like I'm not one of these guys that works until 10 o'clock every night because, I've got young kids and everything. I've got a wife, I've got all that stuff. So it was basically, how do I get 18 hours? Actually, how many hours? So I work 13 hours a day. how do I get, 24 hours of work into a 13-hour day, and the only way to do that is systems. You're not just going to do it by just randomly doing stuff. So that's really what it came down to. It also came down to, I have a terrible memory. So if I don't write something down, it won't, if you tell me to do something, I mean, my wife will ask me to do something. I'll be walking, I'll be walking somewhere. I'll be walking, in the house, and she'll ask me to do something. And by the time I get in the house, I've already forgotten what she asked me to do, because I'm just so in my head. So I have to write stuff down. I've got to have a system where I can actually not rely on my memory to get things done. And then I've also got to figure out, how do I maximize how do I maximize my time? And the way to maximize my time is anything that I don't need to be doing specifically, I need to have somebody else do. And that's how you do it.
Awesome. So for any lawyers or marketers or lawyer marketers that are listening right now, where is the best place for them to go to start working with you? Whether that's, a foot in the door, gift, where should people start working with you?
Well, okay. So I've got a free book that they can pick up. You just have to pay shipping. It's $7.95 for shipping. And that's at freebookforlawyers.com, or you can get it on Amazon, but it's $20 on Amazon. So it's cheaper if you get it through me. And then if you want to see the behind the scenes strategy of exactly, like step by step, how we actually run all of our content for our clients, and also how I run my marketing, and basically how I get all this done, and it only takes me 5 minutes per day, then you can go to lawyermasterclass.com, and there's an hour-long training on there that shows you exactly how I run my entire strategy and how I run my marketing and how we do it for our clients also. So those are probably the two best things to do.
That is awesome, Andy. Thank you so much. I hope everyone listening got some value from the Godfather. I'm giving you that nickname, Andy, the Godfather of law firm marketing. I go to tons of conferences, and Andy's name is always thrown around, whether he's there or not. So bravo on what you've done. And man, I'm just so excited to see what the future holds for you with this huge snowball you're building and have built. So thank you, everyone, for your time, energy, and attention. And we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks a lot.